Yes.
I have a remote attempt to view you, but they don't know where you're at. Google Rooms.
I just started the broadcast.
Okay, but you're at like Google Groups or Google Rooms, something like that, right?
It's a there's a YouTube link.
YouTube link.
Let me remember.
He said he was looking at Ustream.
No, we haven't done that one for a while.
Would the link be on
It's
the website? youtube.com/OmahaLUG. And then there's one that says live now. Of course, it shows me as I'm logged in, so. Can you pull it up, see what it looks like? Sure.
So it should be different for you.
OLUG.
Omaha Lug. Someone else already had OLUG. Hey, oh, it's not showing the live one, is it?
Nope.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Omaha Lug, and it should say something about live now.
Well, we're trying to find it.
There.
Okay.
On the website,
That's what I thought.
in the announcement, there should be a link to the Google Plus event.
That's where I got the Google part.
Yep. So go to olug.org.
It's almost like he's been there before.
Scrolling to that one.
I don't know, watching the event of us doing it seems kind of better.
Look out, recursion.
I love it. Let's see.
I can click it and see if you can get it shortly.
Yeah, cool.
1, 2.
We need to go deeper.
Buffering.
It's using the same network as we're all using. So,
Yep, there it is. He's waving.
Run! No.
okay, slight delay, but
Yeah, only like 3 minutes.
sure. Okay, welcome to the June Omaha Linux Users Group meeting. I am John Larson. I'm a systems engineer at AIM here in the building.
Well, is it then? How many years has it been now you've been a system engineer?
At AIM?
Yeah.
It'll be 9 years in December.
I'll pull up his LinkedIn, I'll find out.
But it was 9 years at CAS before that.
So you're consistent.
So
I
you're
guess.
getting ready
And
to
12
go-
years doing OLUG
Oh,
as the person who arranges the meeting. So. What were you going to heckle me about?
But you're consistent.
Yeah.
9. But then you said 12. You screwed up your thing. So
Yeah.
you go 12, 9, 12, or you can go 12, 9, 9, 12.
So maybe they got the link. There's one viewer, unless that was you. So.
I closed this.
Probably viewerless.
Oh, the Linux kernel 4.7 release candidate 2 was released this weekend. I don't remember what it was in it.
Torvalds broke his rule.
He broke his rule, which was
He put stuff in there that normally they wouldn't put this late in the kernel cycle. But his response was, he makes the rules.
That's right. He's the boss.
That's
He was waiting for this one-type patch for a while, and he just TTYs.
Screw the rules. I have power.
Benevolent dictator sometimes doesn't always know.
yeah. Ubuntu's out, correct? I think that was out in April.
Yeah.
Fedora is scheduled for next week for 24. I noticed that CentOS 7.2 was out near mid last month.
Coming into their last release of the 7 and 8 series.
RHDL is in its clone color up at 6 to 8.
Yes,
Or
that's
6.
correct. 5 is supposed to end of life next year.
Yep. We had about
I wanna
9
say
months.
March.
We had about 9 months in some of the,
So, how many 5s do you have running?
about 5 or 6.
Yeah, I've got about that many as well. I'm hoping to migrate them at some point.
They task me.
That's an Ansible command, right? Replace.
One of the wonderful things about 5 is that some of them work well with Python and some of them don't. And if you don't have Python, or you don't have the simple
You
JSON,
can't run updates.
simple JSON Python, you're not using Ansible. Still have a couple outliers that I really want to get rid of.
You got vendor software that you can't update?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the crux, right? So, this month, Aaron has graciously stepped up to talk about 16 things to try for more Linuxy year in 2016. How are things at Info, or whatever
They're tremendous. They couldn't be better. Oh. There it is. No.
Since it's
We'll ask you
June,
again after this speech.
What?
Since it's June, are you only going to do Apple?
No, it was going to be 32.
No. 16 for 16, plenty. A couple years ago, I did a 14 for 14 con. This is new tools, new things, some of them links to others. Nebraska cert, I tend to do one of these every year because I normally have someone bail on me at a meeting and I always have one stuck, but this is a security related one. Well, this is just a light thing. It's just 16 things that look kind of interesting. If anybody has any questions, suggestions, whatever, by all means speak up. It's not up forward looking. So that's about it. It's broken into 4 or 5 categories. Operating systems, Raspberry Pi things, because everything has to have a Raspberry Pi thing on it now. I did put a Docker thing in here, which almost everybody has one of those now as well. Some USB stuff, some software stuff, and last thing, some miscellaneous. So, first thing, Ubuntu BSD. The last time I did this, I talked about there's a Debian variant in Debian 7 called Debian K3BSD. It is a tremendous concept of you take the whole Debian user space and you build on top of the FreeBSD kernel. Why do this? Because you can't do this. But the Ubuntu BSD guys have done a similar thing. There seemed to be a, I don't want to use the phrase militant offshoot, but they seem to be a group of Ubuntu developers who really don't like systemd. And their solution to that problem is to make sure you can't use systemd by going to a BSD kernel. It's an interesting project. Since the Debian project is dead, I think this one's actually made. Let me head over real quick. So I just got a virtual machine running with it.
Very clean.
Yes, it is. It's XFCE. It's got limitations. Right now, this is based on 1510. They are working a 1604 version of it. But if you do things like, oh, let's say ifconfig, that doesn't look like what I'm used to. You do TF, that doesn't look like what I'm used to either in terms of file systems. There's always been a question I've had about this. If you were to take one of these, put them out in one of those hacking contests, how long would it take somebody to figure out what the hell is going on? Because it's an interesting kernel, and the user space stuff is on there.
Security through confusion.
Yes. But it goes back to the Ubuntu guys. They're doing a really good job. I mean, it runs XFCE right now. They don't have KDE for it. They're working at 4th additional packages, but they're actually pulling some of their packages from there and some from there. One of the nice things about this is, and I'll also mention this on the next one I'm going to talk about, is it helps keep the upstream package maintainers a little more honest about stuff. Because there's this tremendous desire. systemd offers so much capability. There's a desire to drop some of the compatibility and other stuff and just go with systemd's built-in features on it. And that nails some of the other free operating systems and stuff like that. So that's okay. But the Ubuntu BSD thing, other than that, it looks just like Ubuntu. You can treat it just like Ubuntu, provided you don't have any shell scripts that are looking for things like ETH0 and stuff like that. It'll be okay. But it is an interesting little concept what it does. So it's kind of The other one is Debian, or however it's pronounced. Debian flipped to System D, and they flipped to System D hard. For a while there was a choice in 7 and 8. You had a choice between, do you want System D or do you want the old style stuff, the D stuff? Now, Debian 9, you're getting System D. That's your life. That's your choice. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. They've actually pushed System D hard enough that actually the Ubuntu guys have killed all their other options as well, are also accepting System D instead of dropping Upstart and all the other different stuff. Of course, they're nice enough to 16.4 leave like turd files for all the other ones around, which will lead to confusion. But not everybody is happy about this, obviously, because that's the great thing about the open software community. At least 10 to 12% of people are against anything that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing about it is, there's nothing to stop them from trying to do it. It's not like Microsoft, I'm going to make my own Windows. No, you really can't do that. Well, these React OS guys might disagree with that, but to make a full version of Windows is kind of tough. But these guys did that. So they're keeping the old NIST style stuff alive. It's an interesting project because hopefully will help keep some of the other projects honest. One of the ones that's been kind of interesting, they've been having a little bit of a fight with KDE guys about some of the notifies and stuff like that because they've been trying to use more of the System D stuff. And these guys are like, well, we don't support that. What are you going to do about it? And there's a whole wine fest going back and forth a little bit. But it's an interesting concept because it does raise the question, are we going to tie all open source software in the future to System D? Or are we going to be able to run on multiple platforms, stuff like that? Because you never know, Linux may not be the future kernel. It may still turn out to be Mach and the herd and stuff. It's still out there, man. It's never going away, ever, ever, ever.
Don't you go change it.
Yeah. I was going to fire up a VM with this, just show it around a little bit, but the ability to install it seems to depend on how their mirror infrastructure works. And right now, it's like, let's put it this way. When you install Debian, 99% of the time you get a Debian install. When Debian, you get less than that. It seems to be about 25%. It seems to vary about which packages you hit and stuff like that. But think about it, they're trying to create a whole, a whole infrastructure on the fly kind of stuff. It's kind of tough. If you get
Still the same apt-get, right?
Yeah, it's just different repositories, stuff like that. There's actually some guy, and this guy, back to the whole drugs thing, has actually come up with a package manifest, a how-to. If you look for it, it's just tremendous. It's like how to go from Debian to Debian, and just drop the whole System D stuff, get into D, without actually even having to theoretically reboot. That's what his goal is. So you can actually do a live upgrade of it to the other one.
How does that work with restarting for the net?
I don't know. I don't think.
Magnets.
Magnets or madness?
Magnets.
A little bit of
Probably madness.
A little bit of both, yeah.
Yeah, but there's insane people out there, and fortunately they're working for us in this case against this.
So the last time I checked in, they were coming in, they were almost ready.
They have a beta. This is a beta right now.
Okay, they're still at beta.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's cool stuff. I mean, it's definitely something to take a look at and play around with. I mean, it's worth a VM. Would I like deploy production stuff on it? No. No, I wouldn't. I mean, they may get there eventually, but it's right now just another example of just what you can do. So, Redux. This one is actually very cool, and I don't have a demo because it doesn't work in the demo right now. So, Redux is an operating system written in Rust. Rust is it's actually very cool the way it works. Rust is a programming language written by the Mozilla guys. It's designed to be, once again, the thing that's going to put C in its grade. Yeah, it really hasn't happened yet.
Another shot.
But it's a modern programming language. It's actually pretty cool stuff. One of the things that made Unix in its core such a success was it was the first operating system to be written in C with a small assembler layer. And that's really what changed most of the game for all that. So that's the reason why Unix was available on every system. And eventually that's the reason why Linux became available to more and more systems that are written in C with a small assembler core. What these guys are doing is Rust with a small assembler core. This is still really early, but they do have a GUI. They do have a whole lot of stuff to it. And it's the thing about it, the most amazing thing about it is even by the open source standards, these guys are arrogant. I mean, really arrogant. It's like, you guys are all going to say goodbye to your current OS and be running Redux, not VirtualBox for some time. But they're actually working at things like, actually, I've got their website real quick. It's POSIX based. They're rewriting everything in Rust. So they actually have a version of, they have a GUI, which itself is not a bad thing. It's about 8 megs to download right now. Is the size of it. They're working on getting a version of VI clone written in Rust. They're working on all this stuff in Rust. The thing about it is more and more stuff gets written, and more of the utilities get written in Rust. That stuff can be pulled over to Linux or back and forth on it. But it is right now. Don't work on VirtualBox. Doesn't work on QEMU. The last version I tried, there were some versions that worked a little bit before, but then they crashed. And it's pretty much go out, grab the Git clone repository, build it, see if today's version runs. If it does, great. If it doesn't, well, there's always tomorrow. But it's a cool thing. But they actually have their documentation and stuff like that. They talk about their philosophy. They're not going to be slaves to the POSIX standards and stuff like that. But it's just where they're at with this. It's just very cool to see an OS that's that small for a whole everything right now. It's still that tiny
8
size.
meg?
8 meg download size for the compressed version of it.
Wow.
But they haven't. That's also because you've got to put a little bit of GUI to it and stuff like that, which is all TK based and stuff like that. But they're coming along. I mean, it's interesting to see where it's at and where it's going to go in the future. Is it going to be a couple years now? There's going to be the OLUG. Linux is going to be the past. I don't think so, but. I've got some ideas about it. They're trying to port it to additional architecture, stuff like that. But they just need to get basic core running of it. But it's one that's going to be kind of interesting to see how it goes.
I mean, they could certainly, if they port it to Broadcom chipset and on Raspberry Pi, that would probably be a good alternative considering how small it is.
Well, the thing about it is all you really need to do to be able to bootstrap is the assembler core.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if you do it right, you can take it to almost anything. There's a similar project from Microsoft a couple years ago called Singularity, which they rewrote the whole OS inside C# as much as they could, and then there's a small assembler core for that as well. But as long as you get to the point where you can get the core of it as small as possible in assembler, and then you can have the rest of the bootstrap on top of stuff, you can take it to almost anything you want to. If it's small enough, you might be able to take it to embedded systems, stuff like that. Because there's really nothing that says that Redux needs all the components it currently has, because it's very modular stuff like that. It's like if you start taking device drivers out of Linux, you can get the size down quite a bit, but you're not going to really get as small as this because there's just less corrupt here. But it's a cool thing. I'm going to be keeping an eye on it the next year, see how it goes. Someday, it'll run in VirtualBox probably again.
I wonder if that's a frame buffer or a BIOS-related issue.
It was I don't remember what the issue was last one because I've seen so many different errors from it. It was VirtualBox Guru Panic Meditation thing, and I was like,
Amiga.
That's why it threw me off. Ubuntu 16.04 is a long-term stable release. What's really kind of interesting about that is they put a couple new features into it. Normally the stable releases tend to be pretty much nothing that special. They tend to be more or less a roll-up, the solid solidification of the thing because it's going to be one for the next 3 to 5 years, depending on how they work at it. 3 years for the
5 years for everything.
Is 5 years for everything? Or 3 years for desktop. 3 years for
They
the.
standardized it, I think, either 12.04 or 14.04. Not 5 years for everything.
It actually is 5 for everything now.
It's either 12 or 14. They standardized it. Instead of having 3 for desktop and 5 for.
Yeah. Because I didn't think the GUI and all that stuff was supported for that. Oh, well, but if it is, though, it's 5 years now. That's tremendous. So
5 years for everything.
we'll see how that goes. But yeah,
The truth is, how many people want to run the same desktop for 5 years?
true. Well,
So that the people staying on Windows 7.
yeah.
People with
Windows
money.
XP.
Yeah.
That's a better
Insurance.
XP.
But there's a big
Banks.
The thing is that the learning curve between Windows 7 and Windows 8 was humongous. Or any Windows and any Windows, learning curve between 15 and 16 is like, okay, what's different? I don't know about computers. It looks the same.
Yeah. Well, Ubuntu, Unity is a constant.
Yeah.
So it's stuck throughout the whole lifespan.
Some of us don't mind.
Yeah.
Really?
I was an Ubuntu user until Unity happened.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I had problems with Unity when I started. Yeah, after a while.
You just
Conversely,
that's what a Windows 8 user says. I just gave him.
I would say I gave it after a while.
After
I'm
I
a
gave
huge
it.
GNOME fan.
Yeah.
I'm a GNOME
Now-
person.
GNOME 3 had a similar rocky start.
Yeah. Oh, KD's had it with 5 series.
Yeah.
There's been
So-
all of them had.
I actually moved back to the
Yeah.
Unity after
Four
GNOME
was
3 was horrible compared to when it first came out.
Well, there's always Ubuntu mate or Debian, because as I always like to say, Debian don't judge.
Well,
Debian
GNOME
is-
3, where I remember, it would have been good for a tablet, but I didn't have it on a tablet, so it wasn't.
Unity initially was great for tablet.
That one too was
It was
okay for
initially
a
designed
tablet.
that
Yeah.
use it on tablets.
As someone who actually tried to actually run it on the tablet, it wasn't designed for that tablet. It was one of the supported tablets, and it was not designed because it was sucky. But Ubuntu is one of the most popular distributions.
It's the most supported across all, as far as simple desktop use. If you want something that will just work for your desktop,
The Mint guys have something to say about that, yeah. No, I mean, but it is a popular one.
Mint is just a tuned up version of it.
And Ubuntu is just a tune-up version of Debian.
So we all win.
Yeah, we all win. Debian is just a glorified version. No, it's all good.
Slack
It's just Slack with a package.
with an installer.
Yeah. But it is kind of interesting. But they have added some new features to Ubuntu 16.04, which would be kind of cool. LXD, which is what? They took LXC and just added one to it. So, but LXD is their container solution. It's supposed to be their competitor to Docker and to LXC and everything else. The thing about it is a kind of a lightweight VM. It can do things that right now Docker can't do, like live migrations, failovers, stuff like that. Does it work well? No. It is still really early. I was kind of surprised they put it in there, but it is in there, and it is something to play around with.
But essentially, they've concentrated on the migration stuff ahead of stability portions. So they have it built in.
It seems to be working all right. I mean, it's just I've had some weird behavior with it, but it's just. I'm hoping they're going to straighten it out. But LXD right now, there's been papers on it. They've talked about it. It's based on LXD core, but the fact you can do things that you can't do with Docker stuff right now, which is kind of cool. Docker's core concept is, well, blow it up on this system, fire it up on this system. That's your migration. You move forward for the rest of your life and just drain it if you have to. That kind of thing. But the LXD is kind of interesting to see because it does have their support behind it. They have done a lot of work on it. They have a small set of zoo of OSs you can install inside it directly, so that you can also do some stuff from LXC and stuff. But it's going to be interesting if they can push this as a standard, or if it's just going to die like their like Upstart and someday Unity. Let's see. The second thing is Snap. Snap is a new packaging manager. It replaces app for certain things. The idea is that you'll be able to use it to deploy things in one package on a system that will continue to be updated even faster, more easily. Mozilla has committed to this. And let me show you how well this works. Because
Caps lock on.
ooh, yeah, Unity, you know it. So I downloaded this earlier. If you do snap install Firefox on my system right now, it's going to say downloading snap. Oh no, you. I already downloaded you. Don't do it again. Well, it's got some work. It's a work in progress. The fun thing about this is I'm just doing this to set it up for failure in minutes. Which is what it's down to. Because it goes, error cannot perform the following tasks. Download Snap Firefox from channel stable snap not found. So if I install the Snap component, then it still won't work. It doesn't work on this version for some reason right now. The idea behind it is you're going to be able to deploy a whole load of things to it faster, easier with one package on there. So right now, your Firefox is spread throughout your system. What it does is it puts it all inside one small package you can keep updating over it. There have already been people who said, hey, Snap is not secure in X11. And they're right. But that's one of the things you kind of accept when you're doing this. But the idea is going to be it's going to be able to keep your stuff going, keep it going. It also packages some dependencies still in. So theoretically, if snaps work correctly in the future, you'd be able to take a snap from Snap to Firefox and deploy it to any system that has some basic core stuff on it without having to worry about versions and stuff like that. It's a cool concept. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Click, which we'll be talking about a little bit later on.
So is it all? It obviously applies deltas for updates and.
Nope. It's a new package.
Oh really? So
Yeah.
just, okay.
Yeah, it's just one file package type thing.
Because it's small enough that it doesn't have to do
Yeah.
a delta change.
If you have a decent thing. But it's going to fail, so let's
Isn't that
just...
similar to what Mac already has?
With DMGs, a little
Yeah.
bit. But that you actually have to extract it out and stuff like this. It does not
Yeah.
much. Yeah. It is quite a bit like that.
Yeah, because at the end of but those are actually folders that are stacked as apps.
Yeah.
Because if you take a Mac app and you open up the Nautilus or Explorer for that matter. With Windows Explorer, it will open up. You find out everything, the entire application is just in a folder.
Yeah, it's all hidden inside one folder here. One file here.
It sounds like Snap is just doing the same thing.
But it's going to be cool to see how it goes along, because this brings up the question of what is the standard packaging format for Ubuntu in the future. Is it this, or is it going to be that, or is it Juju, or what's it going to be? They're trying to be. Are they trying to be everything to everybody, or is it going to be actually work and stuff?
Well, Juju has a deliberate target audience for the larger infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's useless to the guy who's sitting down at home.
Oh, well, download Snap, channel stable, come on, baby. All right. And then it fails. But I can install the Snap thing and it'll still fail.
It's not a Snap.
Not with this, not the Wi-Fi here.
Okay.
But those are a couple of the features in there that are pretty cool. It is coming along. It is still. These are more the cutting edge stuff, and then some people are going to say, "Hey, I'm surprised they put it in here," but it is going to evolve and go over the future.
It does make sense.
Yeah. Oops. ZFS.
Ooh.
Everybody loves ZFS.
Is this the real ZFS?
Yes, it is. They had a fight with Stallman over whether or not it's actually to be able to be included in the GPL. ZFS is a file system that Linux has been trying to emulate through things like BetterFS and all that kind of stuff for some time. It does things like snapshots, deduplication, rating, all that stuff, all built. Very nicely done. So some stuff like LVM can do all that sort of stuff. Melmark just in and out, all that kind of stuff. Add various packages to it. It was phenomenal file system. It was one of the last great hurrahs for something. And they released it in open Solaris under the CDDL license, which is the desktop development, some sort of development license, but which is incompatible with the GNU GPL license. Ubuntu has included this inside their package, inside their system, as a set of binaries. Debian includes it as a set of source, so you can still build ZFS, but you have to build it then to be able to install stuff like that. There's a company in town that I know of pretty well. What they did is they took Linux quite a while ago. They had Red Hat. And they had these things from Sun called Thumpers, and Thumpers were a tremendous machine. 40 chassis, 48 drives. And they just put Linux on that, put ZFS on it, and just turned them into just giant storage places for the cesspool of crap that you can't get rid of. And just let it stack up over time. It was amazing what you could do in terms of deduplication, that kind of stuff. If you would load up great features, stuff like that. But ZFS being available inside of Ubuntu now is very cool. It's going to be interesting to see how it resolves out in terms of legalities and stuff like that. But it's interesting. I'm glad to see Ubuntu added in there.
I'm pretty sure they've already sorted out legality already.
Canonical
is kind of really one of those people as well. Like Steam. The Steam OS was initially supposed to be Ubuntu, but it was scrapped because Ubuntu was sitting on it with its legal team, saying that they had to do some kind of royalties or something else at the end of the day. So Steam dropped it and went with Debian.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if you go and download the Steam application for Linux, the default OS supported is Ubuntu.
But no, it seems to be resolved, but is it? I don't know. There's not a legal case right now to resolve this. And, you know, Oracle would love to sue somebody for $10 billion. They're not going to get it from Android, from Google and Android, so got to keep going on that. But the Ubuntu 16.04 is pretty cool. I'm surprised how much stuff they put into it for being a new release. Very, very impressed with that. For being a long-term one. RetroPies. If you haven't built a RetroPie yet, if you have a Raspberry Pi, it's just sitting around. You don't know it. Have you built one yet?
Plan to after I looked at your slides last night.
RetroPie. Great concept. You load up. You take the SD card. You put RetroPie out. You put a whole load of ROMs on there. Then you boot it, and then it goes like, "Hey, let's get your controllers configured. Let's do this. You have Amiga ROMs. Let's show Amiga on the screen. We have this screen. Da, 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 da. And it just puts the relevant ones on there, and it's phenomenally good. And it works pretty well with the Raspberry Pi too. Right now the Raspberry Pi 3, they're not supporting Bluetooth controllers. Last I looked, but they're going to be soon. So that is going to be a phenomenal way to do it. But it's just a fun little project. It's easy. All that kind of stuff works really well. And the question is, one question some people are going to ask, hey, where can I get a bunch of MAME ROMs? And the answer is archive.org. They have these out there, these torrents that have 50 gigabytes of ROMs. And it's some good stuff. There's also, if you look out there, there's public domain stuff. There's all sorts of stuff that you can say is totally all right. I don't know exactly how MAME does it. I don't know the archive.org does this. But I would grab a copy of this.
It's a library.
It's probably nothing.
It's a library.
Yeah.
They're a library.
Yeah.
That's how they do it.
If you said it's torrents, so all they have is just the link. They don't actually post the files.
They're the seeder for it.
They're the seeder.
Yeah. So, I mean, they do have a copy. I mean, even that, if you provide, you get into dubious legality, you need to provide the link to that stuff sometimes. But it's amazing the amount of stuff they have out at archive.org. If you don't hit archive.org, it's also the guys who do the Wayback Machine, which is a hilarious time. If you want to go back and see what the OLUG website used to look like, it is phenomenally good.
I don't know if it has the time that it got compromised.
Or you remember what date that was?
I want to say it was like 2004. That's when we ditched post-nuke and went with Joomla. It got a rather nasty picture defaced it. So
a while ago I had a site there's a site called Mercenary Linux. Do not hit it. Which was the guys who did App Armor went off after they were let go by SUSE and tried to create a company based around trying to sell App Armor to people, stuff like that. And I hit the site a while ago, and they're not doing that site anymore unless they've changed the business model dramatically. It may be far more profitable than the old one, but there's still RetroPie is very simple. It's very cool, and it's just if someone goes like, "What the hell can you do with a Pi?" It's a great example of it.
Question: Is
Yes.
RetroPie, does it work with any other card, any devices?
I believe it may work with the Beagle Bones or something, but there's nothing that prevents you from taking the core. All RetroPie is a whole bunch of different libraries and stuff like that, so you can build your own Ubuntu home with the same stuff on it. Which is RetroPie just makes it really easy. It's an SD card, just put stuff in the folder and stuff. But it's nothing that special about it because the front end and all that stuff are all different various projects around there.
Yeah. Okay. So I was wondering. I like the Raspberry Pi for the low end, but for the upper end, I've always been a fan of the Droid.
Yeah, I don't know if there's nothing to prevent you from.
I don't think you should have a problem doing that.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to. Yeah,
But the Droid has a lot more RAM and more processing power. It'll cost a bit more.
Yeah.
It's still you're getting twice as much, at least 2 gig RAM, and at least 1 core processor.
Yeah. Well, hell, it's me. I was thinking, John, you insensitive bastard. Hang up
I better put my phones on silent.
But if you take a look at the project, I don't know if I think they may have one. If not, I'll always create one. Something a lot of people don't do, but you can do. You can create your own virtual Raspberry Pi to QEMU. You have to just use the QEMU static ARM library, copy it over it to run into it and fire it up. It's pretty good. Hackaday and the Raspberry Pi homepage have examples of this. My demo for this worked fine on my desktop. And will not work on Linux Mint for some reason. I just got tired. It's giving me grief. But your mileage will probably, hopefully, vary quite a bit, the way life should. But it's a way to actually try and play around with some stuff, see how various packages and stuff like that, operating system stuff, that works. All the links for this stuff are at the end. Hey, John, can you show the slides up on the website somewhere?
Yes.
If anyone wants to see it. This one's actually another recipe one, which is actually kind of cool. You can make your own Amazon Echo with a Raspberry Pi.
No.
Yeah, Raspberry Pi or 2 or 3. You need a USB microphone and a speaker set, and you sign up for a developer license, and you have yourself a Raspberry Pi. It's a cool example to show what it can do in terms of voice recognition, all that kind of stuff. It has enough power to actually be able to do almost everything right here.
I just got it.
Oh, well.
Too
You
bad.
spent 120 bucks more than you needed.
Great. So every podcast you listen to, and they say, Alexa, order rap music, and
Eminem shows up at your house.
But speaking of what it can do now, the Alexa, they actually have.
there's over 1,000 recipes.
Yeah, the TP-Link they actually have it working now, so you can actually go, Alexa, turn off the lamps. Before it was Alexa, ask cops to turn off the lamp. Then it'd be Alexa, please ask cops. And it's just a whole. As you got louder and louder, and eventually, apparently, there's a volume thing. If you were yelling at the top of your lungs at it, it would eventually turn it off after like 8 or 9 times. But the new recipe for the Casa stuff from TP-Link actually works pretty well with this. Yeah. But but they have the Git thing is out there. It explains how to do it. It is this very simple recipe. Just boom, 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 boom. If you have the right things, which they're also nice enough in their GitHub page to provide the links on Amazon where to buy the various pieces you need, which I thought was a nice touch.
And they probably, I'm sure they have tracking codes so that they're making a little bit off of the.
Well, this is actually Amazon doing it. Amazon's actually released the recipe.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it's actually them. So it actually is a way else to get a developer account to figure out the stuff, which is kind of cool. So it's another example of one of the things you can do with a spare Pi, because it works with the 2 and the 3, and I believe it also can work with the 1. So if you have an older one you don't have anything to do with anymore, you upgrade to the future. This is one I did not have as much luck with as I wanted to. Multi-bootable USB sticks. Sometimes you want to put multiple live distros on the one USB stick. You can do it via Grub. What you do is you create a VFAT and just throw a whole shitload of ISOs on there and then just try to like that, like someone has done in the back.
There's the Geek Squad.
And you can grub it around and actually get it to boot anyone you want to. That's pretty much what you have to do. There's a couple tools like Yumi that will do it, but there really don't seem to be the ones I really want it to work the way I want it to work right now.
How many?
Well, you figure you want Spike Linux, Black Arch, Kali, Knoppix, and several other tools kits that are
I'm
out
just
there.
thinking if it's VFAT, what your partition layout will be because of the.
What are you limited to on that? You're not. It's not.
Well, you can do 3, but the 4th one would have to have all the extended.
But there's ways to play around with it. But it can be really handy when you do want all of them on the thing. But Yumi can do it. There's some other tools that can do it. The one tool I was looking at for this was, let me shut down a couple of these VMs because it's just. Thinking about it. It's just like you're there, isn't it?
It wouldn't be a presentation without some similar.
There we go.
That was pretty
Quick. Come on.
still doing something.
Yeah. It's,
Uh,
oh, we can always do this.
you probably need to change the permissions on the. It's asking me to log in to see it.
Yes. Or helps if you put the right password in. Let's just do the password.
Multi-boot.
Multi-boot actually is not bad. Thing about it is, the nice thing about this versus just doing a regular DD is this tends to try and avoid blowing up your built-in hard drive, which is kind of nice. 1.4 gig, that's not right.
It's DB.
Yeah.
14 gig. It said. Disk size 14.8.
1.4. 1.4 gig total size.
But on the ISO.
Yeah. So that's one of the tools that let you play around with stuff, but it just is a real simple imager. One nice thing about it, it has a lot of the other ones that doesn't have is it does actually let you boot the ISO in with QEMU before you actually do it to see how it works.
We would like to drop off some pizza and soda for you guys.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
Just sit back here on the table.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Shauna.
You're welcome.
And
Like every time we have an open house, we just have snacks for.
Walk on.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
should have more open houses.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You should always have open houses.
It usually coincides with
Yes.
our night,
Yes,
doesn't
it
it?
does. But it gives you a couple options. You can boot ISO, boot USB using QEMU. You can build the stuff on it. Just a very simple way to do it. It's not idiot proof because I have screwed things up on it, but it's harder, let's put it that way. So it's a decent one to try, but it's just a simple little tool for doing it. There's a better tool I'll show you later on, which is actually very cool, which was a couple slides down called Etcher, which I really am impressed with how that works. And let's just go ahead and quit that. Write protectable USB sticks. If you're doing anything, it's nice to be able to have a USB stick that nothing can get written to. And you want it to be a hardware switch. You do not want to try and do the software stuff because that stuff can be overridden. That's just not the way it can be. And don't let anybody tell you, hey, I got an SD card I've used with an adapter, I just put that switch on it. Because one of the great things about that SD card switch is, that is a software-defined switch. It goes like, should I be able to write to this? Yes, no. You actually ask the software goes like, oh, write to it. And we'll just bypass everything you want to it. Because there's actually this thing called the Canon Hacker Developer Kit, which actually does that. You actually set the Write Protect tab on your thing to tell it to boot into that environment. That's how it knows to be able to write to the card and stuff like that. So that SD card thing does nothing for you. Absolutely zero in terms of that. It gives you a false sense of security until it gets written. But whenever you're dealing with people with bad stuff, which you know you're going to always deal with somebody who has the stuff of a bad situation, it's nice to have one of these. I've got a couple at home right now, iMations and stuff like that. There's a couple of groups that make them, like Kanguru and stuff like that. This the URL at the end lays out which ones they are and how much they are. They do cost more, and there aren't as many of the USB ones.
My very first USB stick had a Write Protect.
Yeah, a lot of them dropped it now. iMation still makes some. They've called Protect or something. But one of those can be really useful to have around on you. Especially if you've cut a nice ISO to it and you have a bunch of tools on it you don't want to have anybody make any changes to. Etcher. This is another tool for writing ISO images to USB sticks. What makes it interesting is the way it's written and how it's deployed. That's what I really find interesting about this thing. This uses something called app image. So here, let me show you how this looks. This is what's cool about this.
App image?
Yes. There used to be this thing years ago called Click, which the idea behind it was you would be able to actually load recipes on your machine. It's kind of like Snap in that respect. Everything's in one package. You can deploy anything you want to. It works in any distribution provided it has some basic dependencies. It's able to put everything else together into one entire package that it needs. This static linking is phenomenally nice. What's interesting about this is that I can't spell it. I don't want to create a desktop file.
How big is it, Craig? 64 meg.
And how much did that cost you?
$65.
That was quite a deal in this day.
Yes. It's all it does is a DOS boot for firmware updates for motherboards.
So what you do here is you pretty much just pick the image, select the drive, and flash it. But it's able to figure out which. Let's just throw. But what's cool about this is that the software is not bad, but the core of how it works is what makes it interesting. Let's just. You select drive. It's actually smart enough to know which drives are flash and stuff like that, so it's reasonably
So
safe.
it might be hitting the vendor IDs.
Yeah, it pulls all that stuff off it. But it's just what's cool about it is the guys who do this are Resin.io. But first off, you can take this Etcher image, deploy it anywhere on it, any x86. There's two versions of it, the 64-bit, the 32-bit, and deploy it on anything. You can deploy it on Red Hat, da-da-da. As long as you have a basic GUI stuff, it will run. It is one file, the Etcher file package. So all you have to do is move that one around. And that's the core of it. There's no other dependencies. There's no nothing. It handles all
monolithic.
of it. Yes. It's like it's equivalent to a statically linked thing with a GUI on it. The way these guys have written this, they've written something called Resin.io, which is their development environment. This is kind of an example they put together to show how their stuff works. But the way they actually have a Windows version, which is kind of similar, which uses a lot of the same code, which is written in, they write in HTML5, Node.js, their Resin.io libraries and stuff like that. But it just works out to the point where you're back to one packaging. You can actually move stuff around without having to pull up the entire shebang over to. I can deploy this on Ubuntu, Mint, Linux, Gentoo, Slack, pretty much anything that it has dependencies and stuff resolved. It does result in bigger binaries and stuff like that, of course. But the fact it's complete in itself is very cool stuff. And the fact that app image is not only examples of what's going to happen. Because we've gone so far down the whole thing with packages for a while, it's letting it go throughout your whole file system, drop various files, and then the ability to be able to deploy just one file into, let's say, a Docker image, which has all your stuff in it that you just replace, that kind of stuff, would be kind of cool. You can do this on this, of course, with Docker with overlays and stuff like this, but this is very interesting. See how it's going to shake out. But these guys put this together as a basic example. But
I guess the only real dependency is X11.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, GUI stuff doesn't work better. Or Wayland, if you're a real man. No, I'm on X11 like everybody else. But what it can do and stuff like that, it is a cool thing because it's based on the derivative from Click. But the way these guys want to do is they want to provide an example of it, so they just threw it all together like that. APG.
Oh yes.
Automated password generator. It's a very simple tool. It generates semi-pronounceable passwords. I use it all the time too, just because you'll end up with a billion different ones. You don't want to reuse the same password again and again. Like Mark Zuckerberg would tell you, da 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 is not a great password to use for various things online.
Now, something to go along with that.
Been using that for a long time.
There's an app that you can get called My Password Safe that will store all your passwords, and you can use passphrases and encrypt it, and you can have multiple safes of passwords.
Yeah. I was trying to think. There was one the other day. The guys.
And the file is like compatible with some of the other password managers.
There was one out there. I can't remember what it was. There's one online one that just actually went out of business. They just took everybody's password with them a while ago. It was a reasonably popular one too. So I don't know if it was that one.
Log Me In bought LastPass.
But I remember there's some. It was just recently happened, like last week or so. Somebody lost one of the ones got banged. But APG is a really useful tool. It just gives you something so you start people out with at least a decent password. Because after a while, you're going to type in I hate this whatever da 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 so many times. It's like and people are going to be able to derive from it.
I'm going to run it.
The reason I like it is because I can the pronounceable part of it really works well for me when I'm.
They've kind of turned that up a little bit in the newest version. They've kind of
interesting.
Throwing more special characters and stuff in there. If Fedora's got the latest version, which has much more. Because right now this is generating A through Z, 0 through 9 type stuff. Now the newer versions, or you can set this option as well. We'll put right bracket, left bracket, exclamation points, all that kind of stuff in it, which just adds a great deal of complexity of it. Or if you want to, you can just take a couple
and
of these.
There's options you can tell it.
There's a load of options.
Not do certain things.
Yeah.
No more than 2
digits.
No more than
Algorithm, pronounceable, random, true random, max length, modes, must have to use numeric, special symbol, should or should not use all those various things. But it's all laid out there. It works pretty well. It's just a very useful little tool.
If usage of those will slow down the password generation process. LMNT.
It'll take 1/10 of a second instead of 0 less than 1/10 of a second. But if you're not using this to generate passwords for various sites, find something like it, because if you're just using the same one over and over again, you're going to eventually find yourself a get pwned or something. You can't trust any of those online sites anymore. Everybody's going to get hacked sooner or later. So there's just secrecy compartments.
Password manager, which seems to do just great for me.
So it's generating the passwords as well?
You also have a password generator as well, but it's completely random. It's completely random and not bad either. But it's not every website that can generate a password. It'll just tell you, you want to use this random password.
And then it remembers it.
Yeah, then it starts shipping you ads depending on what you have in there. No, it is just very cool stuff. This is just one slide on the fuse file systems. There's a billion fuse file systems. A fuse file system it stands for file system and user space. It is really, really, really nice. Here's just a couple of quick examples. MergeFS, what you can do is you can take multiple drives, just put them all together and mount it up as one bigger drive. So you got 10 gig here, 20 gig here, 30 gig here. You can just mount it all together as one big one. You can get the 60 gig.
Is it,
it does not have splitting files.
Or hetero or homo? It means.
Hey.
No, hear me out. Hear me out. So if you got a VFAT 16 and a VFAT 32 on the back end.
I don't know if it will or won't. I always deal with just the same type file system.
Okay.
I don't know if it will, but the thing about it is, what it does, one thing it won't do is it won't split files across the multiple file systems. So it'll go like, hey, you got a 12 gig file here, you have 6 gig here and 8 gig here. It's not going to split it up and do it that way. It's going to say, don't have enough space. But if you do have 14 gig here, we'll figure out where to stick and stuff like that for you. So it's actually kind of nice for that. That's just one example.
Homogeneous and heterogeneous. Those are the 2 words I'm trying to use. If you look at the front of the Samba book.
You were abbreviating a little bit there for us. But no. But no, I don't know if it will or won't. And if it doesn't, you can always have that capability. The source is available for MergeFS.
I'm not a math major.
Okay. It's not a math thing, man.
It could be somewhere.
Oh, well, true. MP3FS. This is a file system that's very interesting what it can do. What it does is it lets you take, if you were smart enough to cut all your stuff in FLAC, which how many of us did that? That's right. All of us cut in MP3, and now we're like, man, I really should have cut in FLAC instead. Because now,
Hey, I have some of mine.
I don't have any mine in FLAC. I did it all MP3 variable bitrate, and I'm like, this sounds like crap now.
I never do variable.
Yeah, well,
so it converts it on the fly as you're reading them in.
What you do is you can mount your FLAC file system and actually pull stuff across it. We'll do the translation for you, so you can drop it on your MP3 player or anywhere else like that stuff. It does the transcoding on the fly. Very cool little way to do it. Because if you don't have to do it by hand, which Lord knows none of us want to do, it does it for you. Another one, this is one I use all the frickin' time. SSHFS allows you to mount a drive over SSH. That is very nice. So all you have to have is SSH credentials to any site you want to get into if you have the capability to actually mount their drive locally, like if you're using Linode, DigitalOcean, and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. It is very, very nice, very convenient. Until, of course, your machine goes to sleep, you lose the SSH connection. If you don't have auto SSH turned on, it won't let you unmount it cleanly most of the time, so it lets you do fuser-L. But that's a whole, it's good. So let's just leave it at that.
Not necessarily for a laptop.
No, not necessarily. It depends on how it goes. But the convenience of it is really nice. And the nice thing about it is once you have it that way, you do that RM-R, it will just take care of that for you.
It'll keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Fuse systems can do all sorts of things like that. Right now, I'm playing around with the Fuse system for an MP3 file system. It's not like based on this. It's based upon metadata. So I want to actually have a file system that lets you mount your MP3s, and we'll create a little turd file next to it called MP3 info, which will just be the on-demand created information about what's inside the MP3. So you can actually go through and figure out all the songs by this guy, all that kind of stuff, without having to try and do it through some other, like the naming scheme type stuff. So we can actually do that kind of stuff. I'm working with it right now. I'm far enough where I've got the example program for Fuse working. So we're getting closer by the year. So hopefully I'll add it to the 17 for 17 call. But Opera, Vivaldi, browsers are still evolving, and more is happening in the space than I thought there would ever happen again. It's amazing what it can do. Opera is amazing because they dropped their Blink engine. They grabbed Chrome's engine instead, and they're adding new features to it. Like, let me show you a couple of things that are kind of interesting here. These examples are based on the Opera Developer Edition, not the regular version that you get right now. Come on, baby. Come on. Wow.
You're selling it.
It's the machine. It's the problem.
Yes, I want help. No, Thanks.
So, let's take a look at the privacy options while we wait for that to load. Privacy.
Three down from the bottom.
That's private window.
That's front window. It's just under settings, sorry. But the way it is, they have ad blockings available directly in the thing. And one of the really cool features they have is VPN. So you can enable your VPN, and it will bounce all your stuff all around somewhere else. And of course, when you do that, you're slowing things down. Don't forget that. But if you do things like...
Is it set up a regular VPN?
No, it's for Opera's actually.
Opera's VPN.
Opera, it uses Opera's VPN infrastructure.
So you have to subscribe to it?
Nope, free.
No credentials.
No credentials, no nothing. And if you take a look at it, say like I've used 245 megabyte so far this month. It's taken a little time to do the whole negotiation. But the virtual location, IP address, all that information, I don't know why it's giving me some grief. I wonder if it's something with the Wi-Fi around here.
You're probably going through about 3 different systems to get out.
Yeah.
Are you an Exchange guest?
I am on Exchange guest.
Okay. Yeah, there's at least 3 systems between you and the outside world.
But the nice thing about it is, I was using it last night. It was actually bouncing me through New Jersey, which is always a nice place to go. One thing to keep in mind is if you do hit something like YouTube with the VPN turned on, you're going to see links that have nothing to do with your interests. And let's just leave it at that. So it's not necessarily something you want to actually suggest to your parents sometimes, because just use the description as eclectic for what to pull back for YouTube would be an understatement. Stuff you're like, oh, okay, but it's still moving forward.
Why is there hydraulic press videos on my suggested videos page?
I would have been happier with that. Hydraulic press / hamster videos. But the thing about it is it's amazing that Opera is still moving forward. Because a lot of people, myself being one of them, thought that the browser wars were over. That Chrome had won, that there's nothing else still to happen in the space. And if you're on a decent Wi-Fi, this isn't too bad. I mean, obviously you're going to pay for the VPN overhead. It's not free. But if you use this in addition to other capabilities still have for doing research stuff, it can be very useful. Blocking ads being built into it is amazingly interesting because Opera makes most of their revenue from ads. So I don't know if they're going to do something like Brave is trying to do, where they're trying to put their ads in place, or they're going to stick some ads in there, or how they're going to survive. Because I mean, in terms of their bandwidth usage, I've been using a load of it. Let's just try this. Let's stop. Yes, I'll just stop.
Escape. X.
Oh, another thing you have on here is power save mode. But you turn that on, it will actually save your battery power. It will actually slow down animations, do all sorts of stuff. They've pulled some numbers on this which have been insane. They're saying like on the MacBook you can get like 20% more battery life on it for another hour or so just by turning this on and letting it do this type of stuff. It's like, wow, that is phenomenal. But that's just an example of one of the tools can do.
Flash block, I mean, it's very similar, right? So.
It doesn't block it. It just drops frames and stuff. It drops to a lower bitrate and stuff like that. There's also there's another version of this stuff that will use some Opera's bandwidth stuff, which actually will do things like minimize images, all that kind of stuff. It works pretty well, but I don't know, it's gonna be brief. But it may be someone doesn't like the VPN, maybe because it can't find its way back to it or something. But that's one example. Vivaldi is adding new features as well. Vivaldi is Opera John from Opera left Opera and started a new company called Vivaldi. They're developing a new browser, which is based upon Chrome, and it has some new features in it, like tab stacking and customizable mouse gestures. Which, if there's 2 types of people that there's 2 points of view about mouse gestures. One point of view is they're the most amazing thing. Most amazing thing to ever happen in the world of browsing. The other one is, could you just please shut the hell up about mouse gestures? Because I'm tired of hearing about them. I'm firmly in the second camp, but some people love them.
I'm using them for desktop navigation.
And that's why I'm second gen.
Desktop navigation, not for browsing.
Yeah.
Desktop navigation.
Yeah.
showing all my screens.
Yeah, it can do some amazing things for.
But that's one of the features of GNOME and what's it called, Puppet.
Yeah, but there's some things you can do with it. You can set it to certain options and stuff like that. So if let's say you're at work, you want to have a way to get back out of your browsing and get back to something safe when you know the boss is coming. That they'll do that whole thing be useful. But it's still evolving. Browser is still moving forward, which kind of surprised me. If you haven't tried out Opera, give the Opera developer a shot. It is very cool what it can do in terms of that stuff. I'm just to hear about people's success with it. Vivaldi's got its own type stuff. Brave is another one I was talking about. That's the Ike guy who was charged Mozilla for about a day before he.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think he's about a week.
It was about a week.
Yeah, but he left there, and so. But they're still evolving. If you haven't played around with different browsers in a while, try them out. Even Cupzilla and some of those other ones are kind of interesting what they can do. But these are the thing about Opera and Vivaldi is neither one of them is open source. They're both based on open source technology, but neither one actually is. But they're both very interesting. Osalt.com.
I love this site.
It is a very nice little site. Let's go out to it real quick.
I still haven't found a good
Sorry?
Open Visio files.
What did Osalt say about it?
He gave us a bunch of different options. I clicked a bunch of different things. But the closest ones were online alternatives.
Like Lucid Chart or something?
There is a couple that I used.
Dia is not bad.
Yeah.
It's been around for a while.
Open Office Draw is another one.
Yeah, I've used that several
Kivo,
times.
Kivo or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever.
I tried that, so the rest are all just crap.
Speaking of, there's the Lucid Chart ads right there.
Not just a Visio replacement. I wonder how they got those. It's feeding directly back. This is one of the times that using a VPN can be useful. But this is actually really useful because it gives anybody who whines about various things, asks questions about stuff. What's the alternative to this? What's the alternative to that? You can just throw something in there, and it usually comes up with some not bad selections. Let's try the example he suggests.
AutoCAD. FreeCAD.
I know there was a question on Reddit system last week. Dia got a lot of love there. So.
They have a lot of things that they have like templates for Cisco and a whole bunch of other stuff like that, which kind of has your background. There's one online, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's actually not too bad as well. But the other thing you're back to also sharing all your information on the web, which some people like, some people don't. But Dia, yeah, I like that one quite a bit. But yeah, they suggest things like QCAD, Community Edition, FreeCAD. This is open source and closed source tools, but they're mostly free. But it's not a bad thing to take a look at. It has a whole load of different options on it. Let's type in, before we go, I got to do this semantic. Let's see what the alternatives are for that. Semantic, Norton Ghost, Partition, Norton Antivirus, ClamWin,
WinPooch? Yeah. Not heard that one.
I'm intrigued. But it's a really great site. It's one of the ones I tend to hit quite often for stuff like that, just to get you a place to get started trying to figure various things out. So, not too bad.
You're just in demand tonight.
It's not me. It is me. You know, I told them I was going to not be available, so that's why they're calling. All right. SQL Server on Linux. This is actually impressive. There's been a handful of big days in Linux's history. One of the ones was the first release. One of the ones, when it became self-hosting. When it became self-hosting. When it was the 0.9 series. When it went 1.0. When it went multi-platform. When various things have happened to it. When they had the first GUI.
IBM.
Yeah. And one of the other ones has to be when Oracle actually announced their database was going to be available on Linux. Before that, nobody had done that or thought of doing that at the time. So it was impressive. It was a big show of support at the time, which a lot of people did not expect to happen. I mean, actually, you look at it now, if you actually deal with Oracle, their primary development platform used to be Solaris, which that isn't anymore. It is Linux is their primary development platform these days. So the fact that SQL Server from Microsoft is going to become available on Linux is a big deal still. It's a validation of the concept of it. Is it as big a deal as Microsoft Office would be on Linux? No, but is it an interesting concept?
Or I don't think that will ever come.
What?
I don't think that would ever come because it would be killed to all their desktop. They can put it. Somebody once asked me, and I debated it with myself for many years, trying to figure out why I didn't release it for Linux. And then I realized they can release it for Microsoft on Windows, and they can release it on Mac because most people are never going to install Windows on a Mac box. It's always going to be Mac, so it's an additional environment. But if they provide it for Linux, it means that people can scrap Windows and put and still do. So unless they're ready to give up the benefits of the financial benefits towards running Windows.
Yeah, Office makes more money for them than almost anything else does. Just in terms of pre-bundle stuff. I mean, they have released Office on Android and also on Apple, which on the Apple iPod and stuff like that. Which
Yeah, that's the Office 365
Yeah.
edition.
But I mean, that's also they're heading towards that with Linux as well. But the core concept comes down to, in terms of validation of it, this is a very cool thing. So they've announced it. The question will be, what percentage of actual SQL Server will actually work on Linux? Will it be like just a little core engine? Will it be all this stuff? Will it be this? All that kind of stuff?
Version.
Yeah.
The other thing will be what did they do with the Linux licensing environment? Did they do the same dances that you do with Windows?
Oracle licensing.
Yes, also.
And also Microsoft have released
Those are the evil twins of licensing.
Visual Studio. There's a Linux version for Visual Studio.
Oh, they're also releasing a lot more of .NET into the rotor. They bought Xamarin, which is going to kind of be interesting to see what that happens in Mono in the future and stuff like that.
Miguel's still there.
Yeah, Miguel and Ed are still both there. But I haven't talked to those guys in years.
Sounds like they're just giving up.
They're giving up to tons of money. Oh no! How would you do that?
Right now, I think their desktop OS. I think they're only really worried about the enterprise environment. The end user environment, the private user, is the losing interest. I think basically based on all of them.
Yeah, but it comes back to the thing. There used to be this whole deal about getting your OS, getting your Apple or Windows in front of PCs in front of kids in school because you lock them into it during the training process, and you have it for generations. It's kind of the same thing, I think, if you have a different entire environment. If people start running Linux at work, they would start running Linux at home, probably. That whole type of thing. It's like the whole fact that as long as they have the Windows at work, that kind of environment, they're going to have a good shot.
Well, I mean, with the fact that Chromebooks will be running Android apps this fall.
Some Chromebooks.
Well, the list is getting bigger.
But
once they announce that possibility, then the manufacturers can all start to tailor that. Yeah. Maybe more of them will have touch screens.
Yeah. Most enterprise apps are running in the browser anymore. It's even reducing the need for whatever OS you want to run.
Yeah. A lot of stuff with that. But that is going to be very cool to see how that shakes out. There's the developer version out there. I was going to go out and grab a copy of it, and I'm like, I don't want to have that. I'll wait till it gets a little further baked. So I think right now it might be invite only. But I'm still interested to see how it goes because it has the place where I work. It has broken a few people's minds. Most of Windows guys tend to be SQL Server guys, so it's kind of screwing with them.
Traffic. I got a lot of cube traffic.
Yeah, screw you, Microsoft Windows, you're all gone. No. Last one is Linode and DigitalOcean. It's cheap hosting in the cloud, man. It's just nice. DigitalOcean Droplets start at $5 a month. Linode $10 a month. They're SSD. They're quick to start and shut down. They're tremendous just to play with for experimentation.
OLUG is on Linode.
But they also have a ton of good tutorials on them as well. Do you have a referral code?
That would be Brian's account.
All right.
But I have my own.
I got to put a referral code at the bottom. But it comes down to it's a great way to play around with some stuff and figure stuff out. Because you can just flip from OS to OS in a matter of seconds. And it's just a great way to just learn stuff and crap like that. If you want to play around with things like Flask and Django or something like that, and you don't want to screw up your home system, because you really don't want to screw up your home system. You will, but you don't want to. So it can be very nice to do that kind of stuff. And the thing, one of the great things about, I believe it's Linode, is they actually have, if you want to write a tutorial for them, they'll pay you like $200 if it's actually worthwhile one. And it provides a tremendous amount of incentive for people to write some good tutorials and stuff on there and stuff like that. So there's a lot of good information there as well on both their sites about how to do various things, how to deploy this or how to deploy that there. But if you do it, there's a referral code at the bottom. If you get like 2 months, $10 off your $10 free in your account for like a year or something. And if you spend 25, I think I get something.
I usually pay for the year for my own Linode.
Yeah, I don't have my Linode instance right now. Last time I had it up was 2 months ago when we were doing the Let's Encrypt stuff.
Mm.
My credit was just coming up to expire, and I haven't got it back into it yet because I've been playing with home.
Yeah,
But
I need to migrate mine to 6 or 7. It's on 5 CentOS.
that's all right. But it's very cool stuff. It's a very nice way to play around with stuff without having to worry about blowing up your home environment or inviting people in that you don't want to have invited in or trying to stuff like that. Also, all the ports are open, that kind of stuff. So you don't have to play around with the whole Cox thing.
And
now running port 80, you can run.
I actually used mine for an IPv6 class and applied IPv6.
Yes, DigitalOcean does the IPv6 support. I don't know if Linode does yet.
I've used it in class.
Right. But they have DigitalOcean has IPv6 droplets in various centers like New York and San Francisco.
All you have to do is like go into the control panel and turn on v6 and do a reboot, and you've got your IP.
Yeah, but very cool stuff. But it's also one of those things that we're called to take a look at. So that's the end of my talk. The rest of this is all just the various links to stuff. But just a hodgepodge stuff. But the Azure I/O stuff, the app image stuff, very cool stuff. Kind of curious where that goes. And next year I'll be doing my talk on the other thing, my MP3 file system, probably, hopefully.
Can you do a share and make that anybody with the link can view?
Yeah.
Share it. I need
I'll throw it. I'll mail it to you tonight.
Okay. Oh, I've got the link. I already put it on the website and on an email. So.
Take it down.
Yep, just done. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's anybody with the link
Yeah.
only can view, so that takes
Alright.
care of it.
So yeah, that's all the links and all that stuff. So thank you very much. What are you talking about next one?
I'm talking about OpenHab. I'm going to start over from scratch and rebuild my system because it didn't exactly work for me. Who would have thought that Java would be so fun?
Well, any Minecraft player would have told you Java is fun. The Dwarf Fortress tends to word.
I see. Well, the adapter, the Z-Wave adapter that I purchased, you're supposed to be able to unplug it and walk around to pair to your light switches and things. But with Linux, when you unplug the USB and plug it back in, it's serial port emulation. It's like TTY ACM0. Then if you plug it back in, it switches to 1. So it doesn't work with your config. So it's a little weird at this point.
You have to make it detected after.
Yeah. So what I figured was I would try to pair it first, but my dongle is acting up. You're supposed to press it and it flashes a certain color. It's almost like the internal battery is bad because it dies right away. So it's an Aeon Tech.
Different components, or are you changing different components?
I might get there's one that you can get that plugs into the GPIO ports on the Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
But the one I have is USB. Because supposedly the USB one I can also plug into my Synology and have that do it too. But it'll all be moot when Google Home comes out this fall, right, Dee?
I think so. I think so. I'm not working on that.
I didn't think you were. I'm just saying. I'm just giving the plug, right?
We're the boring guys.
You're hardware ops.
Pretty much. Not that kind of hardware.
Not home hardware?
I wish.
Well, it'll be cool. I mean, it looks like an Airwick right now, so.
That's actually the thing. When you just buy like 2 or 3 for your home, depending on how big your home is.
Well, if you've already got Chromecast, it should already automatically work with them.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying for the Chromebook presentation that I've seen, I probably have seen
Yeah.
And if there's one on the room, broadcast can't be your voice.
Right. You need a microphone. So.
Basically, wherever, as I said, however big your house is, you have whatever you need.
Trying to get out of here real quick.
They really would work with all the other wonderful things that they bring up there. I'm just thinking, even though that fact that I work at Google, just the general add-ons, everything between the Nest devices, Nest compatible devices, and everything else that works together. That sounds like a really good system.
I've had to start classifying the name of my Chromecasts just so I know which ones are what, whether it's audio or video.
Yeah.
Because there's like 4 each. So, well, there's 3 video and 4 audio. So, but the whole house audio works pretty darn good for those.
Yeah. Well, I live in a small apartment.
Oh.
I have just one TV in my living room. It's an Android TV. I didn't have to buy a cast. But it works for me.
So technically, are they running Brillo or are they running a version of Linux? I wonder.
I have no idea.
Because technically, the year of the Linux desktop, or the year of Linux happened years ago, right?
Yes. Happy every day. Everywhere.
Yeah, Android is a fork of Linux, isn't it?
Yep. No, it's not really a fork. It's using the kernel.
It's basically.
I thought
it's
for a while it was
brand new
using its
Linux
own
OS.
version of it.
It's a Linux OS, essentially.
It's a pure Linux OS. Built just for
If you want to think fork, that's CyanogenMod or FireOS.
That's.
Well, they had contributed everything back.
It's Android.
It's Android?
Yep.
Anyway, I know that the whole core OS, Android is just a completely different distribution of Linux, built from ground up for mobile devices.
So next month, I'm talking August. I need to find somebody. Also,
September, need to find somebody. October.
I think I'm doing October. I am not here in August, so someone needs to open the door. You got that? Okay.
You get haters, you can not kill two
Hater's not here tonight.
Well, if you give him the job, he probably might show up.
Yeah, I don't know if he's got kids doing stuff tonight or not. But this ends the video broadcast of our day. Thank you.